Hi, this is Jen Rubin for The Contrarian, and my guest is actually my co-founder, Norm Eisen. Norm, good to see you.
Jen, what a big day today was for Americans everywhere pushing back on the autocracy. Our motto today was litigation and laughter, not in that order, because we think that autocracy needs to be combated by reinforcing the rule of law, but by laughing at and mocking Donald Trump. And we refuse to take his shenanigans seriously.
Right. Now, after we did a very good job of mocking him and his dreadful inaugural speech, he then has rolled out a whole series of executive orders into the evening. Interestingly, some of the worst ones, the most damaging ones, the most unconstitutional ones coming later in the day. There were a whole lot of them. Why don't you pick four or five of them? And a couple of them we've all already seen had lawsuits filed. Did you have something to do with that, Norm?
Yes, with a couple, for the sake of being unbiased, I'm going to describe somewhere where I litigated and
Perfect. That's
somewhere
right.
others have done so. So we know that one of the most important things that Donald Trump wanted to do on his first day in office, as all totalitarians do, they need a scapegoat. And Donald Trump has been one of the most persistent purveyors of disinformation about migrants that our country has ever seen. Perhaps the lowest was his baseless claims that the migrants in Springfield were eating pets, totally fabricated. Um, so his attack, he signed many executive orders today, tightening the border, and it was a lot of theater about immigration. But perhaps the worst was his executive order ending, purporting to end birthright citizenship. The Constitution provides if you're born in the United States, you are a citizen of the United States. It's not up to Donald Trump to rescind the 14th Amendment with an executive order. That's what he purported to do. We knew
Now,
this was
Norm, I
coming.
just want to stop you. Not an executive order, an executive decree, a bogus proclamation. It doesn't even deserve the term order
Correct.
because order
Correct.
denotes that you're operating
I'll
within the
see.
law.
I'll see your refusal to adopt the Orwellian doublespeak, and I'll raise you. Let's call them dictatorial decrees, because he said
Absolutely.
he would be a dictator on day one. He said he would do it, among other things, on immigration. And guess what? By attacking the Constitution, he fulfilled his commitment to be a dictator on day one. What is the definition of dictatorship if it's not demagoguery and disdain for the rule of law? That's what Donald Trump did with his birthright dictatorial decree. And as you advertised in advance for the audience, I saw this coming. Our American Autocracy Threat Tracker at State Democracy Defenders Action. Over 300 pages of promises what Donald Trump was going to do to attack the rule of law, attack unfairly scapegoats, migrants in this case. So we prepared, and with the ACLU, with LULAC, one of our leading Latino civil rights organizations, and with a group of other Asian American civil rights orgs and the African American civil rights community, we filed a suit saying this was unconstitutional. So it's the story of the day, Jen. I don't just want to talk about those dictatorial decrees. I think it's important to point out shock and awe is being met with shock and awe. And that was true about another one of his pronunciamentos, DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, which turned out to be also the subject of litigation. Perhaps coincidentally, I was also part of the group that brought that litigation
Right.
with Public
By the
Citizen
way,
and AFG.
there's no department actually. Is that right?
That's correct, Donald. It doesn't solve the challenges of legality, but it's now called the United States Doge Service. And what he's done is taken the U.S. Digital Service, a pretty obscure government agency, certainly one that doesn't have the capacity to achieve the grandiose savings that Trump and Musk trumpeted, and he's established that entity. Once again, it's not how you do business in government. By the way, among the other changes was Vivek Ramaswamy is no more to be seen anywhere near the
Eliminated
Doge
what job?
and anywhere near the Doge, which is also no longer Doge.
I,
So, that's not how the law provides for the government of business to be conducted. Doge is a critically important test. And once again, the rule of law, our wonderful folks at Public Citizen and at AFG, the union, the rule of law with me, very privileged to join, to push back on this excrescence by any name. You know how they say a rose by any name is just as sweet? Well, a doge by any name is just as stinky.
and I would point out two things, and then we're going to go on to the next category. Number one, there was no notice, there's no administrative notice, there's no process for alerting the public that this is coming. And moreover, they discriminated on the base of political belief. As a government agency, they're not allowed to do that. When one Norm Eisen announced he was a Democrat, made an application, and was told no Democrats allowed. So it sounds
Indeed,
like two good basis, at
indeed,
least, for filing the suit.
I applied to help with the enterprise, and they looked at my application. And last week, they said to the New York Times, the chief spokesperson for Doge said, "No Democrats welcome." You know, there is
You're not
such a
allowed to
thing
do that.
of rule. There is such a thing as rule of law in this
Right.
country. So these issues are also going to be litigated.
Next category, something called Schedule F, which we all learned about. By the way, all of this was set out in Project 2025, which we said was going to be the guidepost, the guidebook for this administration. Trump said, "Oh, no, no, I don't have anything to do with it." Virtually everything that was in there is now showing up in executive orders. We'll see if
Well,
every
many,
item,
many
but
of the
many.
things in there.
So
And
what is Schedule?
it's early days yet. We only
Yes,
have
right. He's only been there for 12
beginnings.
hours or so. So what is Schedule F, and what's he doing, and what's wrong with it?
Um, One of the classic traits of dictatorial regime is to hollow out the civil service. These are independent, nonpartisan experts who populate the government. They're the ones who make sure that the milk that our kids drink is safe, that the drug that we all utilize when we're under the weather are not poisonous, that the water and the air are safe to drink and breathe, respectively. And dictatorial regimes hollow out those experts in favor of replacing them with loyalists. That is what Schedule F is. It's the creation of a new schedule where they're going to move civil servants, try to lower their protections, and then transfer them. Suddenly, if you're a prosecutor at DOJ who says, "Hey, I don't want to bring that case against one of Trump's enemies that has no evidence," congratulations on your transfer to the Alaska U.S. Attorney's Office. So that's the kind of thing that Schedule F will do. And another lawsuit was brought by a union, the National Treasury Employees Union, saying, "Hey, Donald Trump once again is breaking the law," as in the other examples. So that's a third type of a thing he's doing. But the fourth As bad as it is to say you can overturn the Constitution with a dictatorial decree, formerly known as an executive order, the worst of all was, I think, the mass pardons, the mass amnesty of the
Yes.
January 6th convicted insurrectionists, including a large number of violent ones who are now going to be released on our streets. That is a terrible risk to the country. It puts the lie to Donald Trump's claim that he's in favor of law and order. These include people who attacked police. And it shows that this Trump regime is completely divorced from any sense of law or decency.
And I will end with this. There are also a set of these that are either preposterous or simply meant to show that he controls the sun, the moon, the stars. His executive decree, for example, on inflation, he directs everyone to bring down inflation, and so it will be. This is not a executive order. This is a wish list. In
It's
another case,
theater.
it is there. In another, he says, all my people should go to the Supreme Court and overturn all those precedents that prevent me from executing all the prisoners that I want. So again, this is not an executive order. This is telling his Justice Department, which Pam Bondi said would not take orders from the president, to go into court and try to reverse previous precedent.
He said he was going to be a dictator on day one, and he was as good as his word. You and I both know that once dictatorial powers, like overruling the Constitution with a decree, once dictatorial powers are assumed, it's not that easy to give them up. So I think we are going to see more pushing and pushing on the Constitution and laws. But Jen, here's the good news. As these lawsuits exemplify, Americans, both leaders, ordinary folks alike, because the plaintiffs in some of these cases, LULAC, the Latino Civil Rights Group that is in our case, a client of mine, that's a body of hundreds and thousands of Americans,
Yes.
hundreds of thousands. And so what you're seeing is people stepping forward to push back.
Right.
And
Right.
that is the story of today as well. And we shouldn't, just as the mainstream media did, focus on Donald Trump's predations, pretend they're normal, and move on, move back tomorrow to who won the college football playoff. As important as that is, it's very important to me. We need to call it like it is, and of course, that's what you and I do here at the Contrarian. That's why we co-founded it.
Absolutely. I couldn't be happier to be here. And what a week to be up and running. I think we're giving people something other than the gruel, the meal that they get from the mainstream media. So good night, Norm. You've certainly done a day's work, and we'll pick up where we started tomorrow.
See you bright and early tomorrow, co-founder, and to all of our wonderful contrarian community. We're going to do this thing together.